from the vault, high atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hey Mike, did you hear about the drama on the convent down the road?
No.
I haven't either. It's none of our business.
Okay. I'm going to blame myself for that. I think I missed the opening of the joke. What was the first sentence?
Have you heard about the drama in the convent down the road?
No.
I haven't either. It's none of our business.
You know, you can't hear crickets chirping in here, but you get the sense that there are crickets chirping in here.
Well,
Folks, he wanted to start that way, and we let him.
Yes, I'm Pete Sanchez, and with me is Mike Walsh. We are Talking Catholic today. From the blueberry fields of Hamilton to the shores of the Atlantic Ocean to the cherry blossoms of Cherry Hill in South Jersey, we're sharing the stories of the faithful in South Jersey.
Wait a second. You were workshopping that while we were in the Star Herald the other day. That intro. What were you going to use it for? You were talking through it for something else. We were trying to put it in an article.
We were putting it in something else. We were putting it in something else, and I kind of had that in my head, and I tweaked it a bit.
Did it work?
What? What do you mean? Did it work?
Your bit. I mean, did it come out the way you were hoping it would?
I think it did.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll ask our guest later. But I was sitting there going, I was going to tie that together because I remember there were 2 locations and we didn't have the third location. So you went with the cherry blossoms of Cherry Hill. That's
what I know. On Chapel Avenue, this time of year, they're beautiful. Have you seen them?
I have not.
It's really nice. It's right down the river in Christ Our Lake in Cherry Hill. So if you have a marker there, that's on Kings Highway, of course. Chapel Avenue is right down the road. And I had friends. That's a good pathway between Kings Highway and Haddonfield Road. Chapel Ave and cherry blossoms there. So just the beauty of the church. Here we are everywhere in South Jersey, the 6 counties of South Jersey. We're glad to be here today. And Mike, how are you today?
I'm very well, sir. Looking forward to this awful, awful heat wave to end hopefully tonight.
Yeah.
So, I am a creature for the winter. I am not a creature for the summer. So
it's been brutal. I got a really bad sunburn on my vacation last week. Of course, I got it on the last day. God's funny in those ways. He laughs.
I don't know. I think that's the way to get a sunburn is on the last day. The last thing you want to have happen is on the first day and have it ruin the rest of your vacation. I think you did it right. So good job.
You know,
let's give credit to the man upstairs for not burning it to the last day.
You know, Mike, you have converted me. Thank you. You have made me see the light. That is it. Thank you.
Sure.
I agree with you now. I did not see it that way, but
okay.
And actually, a good way to beat the heat is to go see movies, like sit in a cool movie theater. That's
Absolutely.
what I did. That's how I spent my July 4th. In the movie theater, I saw actually a very good movie called Won't You Be My Neighbor? It's a documentary.
I've heard about this. Every podcaster seems to be talking about it, and I haven't gone to see it yet.
It's very good. Won't You Be My Neighbor is the documentary just came out on Fred Rogers, the man who, for 30-something years, a seminal part of my childhood on PBS is Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And what I don't know if a lot of people know this, he was a Presbyterian minister in Pittsburgh. And it just was amazing, the stuff talking about how he really wanted every child to know that they are imbued with dignity. They are loved. They are loved by their Creator. And so, in turn, love yourself and love others. It was just a beautiful message. And something he said, too, which really struck me is he talked about the space between his TV screen, about his work, about him, basically the space between the TV and the child, where the TV where he was on was kind of... it was a seminal space and like a important space. And I kind of feel like with our work here, it kind of made me think about the space between us and the listener, wherever you are. If you're in your car, if you're cooking, if you're outside on your back porch, that space, how grace-filled that can be.
Absolutely.
To reach and...
That's a really great way of putting it. Yeah, I have to admit that I wasn't particularly interested in seeing the documentary, only because I actually do know so much about Fred Rogers' life. So I just thought it was going to be a retelling of that. But I'm glad that you found it so powerful.
I did, and the thing is, it's PG-13 surprisingly, so it is for adults. You can't take a kid to it.
Every Marvel movie is PG-13. Almost every Marvel movie. My son's seen every single one of them since the age of...
Okay, then
7.
I don't know if they're alien monsters in this. There are puppets, but
that's cruel.
And make believe. There is a land of make believe, of course, that he had on the show. But it's just a nice, and of course, I think next year Tom Hanks is going to play Fred Rogers in a movie.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Well, Mike, we do have another way to beat the heat is this Art on the Mall going on in Cape May right now. Our Lady Star of the Sea, 525 Washington Mall. There is you're a fan of art, right? You've been to the Philadelphia Museum of Art.
I love good art.
Yeah. No, me too. I'm excited for this. There's going to be Art on the Mall showcasing. It's actually the South Jersey Catholic School's inaugural art exhibition. It'll showcase some of our very talented young students, student artists. The exhibition will start with its host parish, Our Lady Star of the Sea in Cape May. One of the most beautiful historic churches in South Jersey.
You know what? Let me stop you there right before you finish that read, since I wrote that. That is sort of the...
Peeling back the curtain.
Yeah, I know. That it really is, just to give it a little more life than my terrible ad. So we were sort of spitballing ideas about ways of showcasing what our schools can do, sort of, in thinking in terms of STEM and STEAM and STREAM. And one of the elements of our schools that kind of gets underplayed a little bit is the art aspect. And you walk through some of our schools and the art is unbelievable. Matter of fact, the art that's used as the cover photo for this is from one of our high schoolers, and it's phenomenal. I mean, it's unbelievable. You couldn't believe that a student did that. So we were thinking about places where we could put this art installation at, this art exhibition at. So we were thinking Jersey Shore, summertime, someplace that gets a lot of traffic. And the place that just kept popping out in my mind was Our Lady Star of the Sea in Cape May, which is right on the Washington Mall. I will admit that I may be a little biased in this, but it is the most beautiful church in the diocese, at least as far as my opinion goes. It's gorgeous. Even if I'm not going to mass, if I'm just taking a day trip down to Cape May, I will walk through that church every single time, and it hasn't changed in years, but it's just so gorgeous. It's wonderful. It's open on the mall every day. Yeah. You can just go in and visit it. Well, it has a lower level where they've established this art installation. So you go up the steps, you go into the church, you go down the steps, you go into this art installation. And the art there is fantastic. It's paintings and sculpture and photographs. It's really, really impressive. So if you're in the Cape May area or nearby in Wildwood, or you're taking the ferry over from Delaware, I highly recommend giving yourself a couple of minutes to go down into the lower level of Our Lady Star of the Sea and check out the art installation. You will not be disappointed. And you'll be very impressed by just how well many of our students are as far as artists.
I can't wait. That's running till August 16th. So you have some time. Get out there on the way to Cape May. Stop at the art show at the Our Lady Star of the Sea. Well, Mike, this weekend as well, in going from one beach shore community to another, in Atlantic City, we have St. Michael's Church is having Light the Fire, a night of prayer, praise, and street evangelization. This is going to start tomorrow, July 6th at 6 p.m. It's a Friday. There will be 6 p.m. Holy Mass, and then it'll follow by exposition of Blessed Sacrament and music until 9, and then there'll be night prayer and benediction concluding at 9:30. People from the streets will be invited as well into the church to light a candle. So this will be wonderful. There'll be confessions as well. The CFR sisters who have been on the show before.
And hope to be back on the show sometime soon, we hope.
Yes. They're organizing this. They do great outreach in Atlantic City. So just come out and see them. They're just remarkable young women, and come out to it and pray. Again, tomorrow starting 6 p.m. Mass, and all are welcome. This is at St. Michael Church, Atlantic City. I do not have the address, but I know you can call
It's 10 Mississippi.
10 Mississippi Avenue. Thank you.
No problem.
Oh, great. Right off the bat.
We've been there a few times.
Yeah.
That one, for whatever reason, that one stuck in my head.
Okay. Or you can call the sisters at 609-343-1545. And then also, Mike, on Sunday, we are in Hamilton. There's a healing mass with the one Monsignor Michael Mannion, who's well known around the diocese. He was ordained at St. Peter's Basilica, 71, and he knew Mother Teresa. He had a relationship, and that's a great story. But he's going to be here at St. Joe's Church, 226 Front Street, this Sunday at 3 p.m. for a healing mass to experience God's gift of love and healing. He said, Monsignor Mannion himself has talked about the mass, saying that it's a powerful and very beautiful channel to invite people to deepen their faith, to return to the faith, and to share the faith in a community of caring people. So come on out. This is going to be St. Joe's Church, 226 Front Street in Hamilton. For more info, 609-704-5945. That starts on this Sunday, July 8th at 3 p.m. And also in Hamilton, Mike, I'm excited because starting July 9th and going the whole week is the 143rd Feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, which I think you've been to, right?
Many times. It's one of the best festivals in South Jersey, I will claim.
Yeah, it is. And you talk about, what, the Penza Pies?
Oh, the Penza Pies.
Are they there?
I don't know, but if they're not, go to the festival and then go over to Penza Pies, or start your day at Penza Pies with breakfast and then go to the. I don't care how you do it, just hit them both.
Yeah.
Then go to Rocky's for a drink afterwards, and it'll be great.
That'll be this is going to have its own wine and beer garden. There's going to be.
Then stick around for that.
Yeah. So this is a Feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. This whole festival that St. Mary Mount Carmel Parish is sponsoring is the longest running Italian festival in the United States. Since 1875, it's been a Hamilton tradition.
Yeah. The food is good. The people are great. Rides, so many rides. Your children will not be bored.
No, there's Karaoke Idol going on.
That I want to see. All right.
Yeah, no, what would you karaoke, Mike? If you could karaoke to one song, what would it be?
Wow. That's a hard question for me because I can't remember the words to anything. So, I don't know. Inagata Davida? Not a lot of words in that one.
Okay, wait, who sings that one?
Iron Butterfly.
Iron Butterfly. I know, it was in my head. I hate to, for me, it's got to be Under Pressure by Queen.
Oh, that's a good one.
Song.
Sure. I'm looking forward to the Queen movie coming out in the fall.
Yeah.
Just to see if anybody can do Freddie Mercury justice.
I know. Well, the guy, he looks like Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
But the festival, there'll be fireworks, there's food, there's music, there's karaoke, there's a blessing of the stands Monday, July 9th at 5.
Okay.
I guess
the blessing of the what? Oh, the
blessing
food
of
stands.
the food stands.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It says blessing of the stands here on the ad.
All right.
But at the bottom it says food stands.
Okay.
So come on out.
And
this
then
is gonna.
Bishop Sullivan is saying Mass, what is it, Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. or Monday morning at 9 a.m., I think.
I did not know that.
Yeah. That's, hold on.
That's good.
We are flipping through the Catholic Star Herald as we're reading our ads. On Monday, July 16th at 9 a.m., he'll be saying the Mass for the Feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel and deceased members of the Society of St. Joseph's Church, St. Mary of Mount Carmel Parish in Hamilton.
Oh, and that's the Feast of St. Joseph.
That is, which is why I'll be there.
Yeah, no, that'll be
good.
Yeah, it'll be great. So, again, the St. Mary Mount Carmel Parish, it goes July 9th to July 16th, St. Joe's Church, 226 Front Street in Hamilton. Call 609-704-5945. For more information, I'm like, we spent about 15
And they do have
minutes.
a website if you want to do that. Oh, yeah. Such an apology to our guest for the all-time longest wait any of our guests have ever had to put in 14 minutes and 4 seconds on the nose.
I know.
So thank you for joining us, Elena.
Thank you for having me.
So Pete, why don't you give her a proper intro?
Well, I'd like to welcome Elena Brandt. She is founder of FontSound. Did I get that right?
Yes. FontSound, FontSound.org, FontSound LLC, is committed to empowering missionary disciples through sustainable, Sunday-centered pastoral solutions for today's Catholic parish.
Yeah, I'm curious. We'll jump right off the bat.
Sure.
That's such a great mission statement.
Thank you.
How did you come up with that?
Oh, wow. That's that's a very loaded question. I was looking for. I've worked in pastoral ministry all of my adult life, and I know that there is a need for looking at things from a different perspective, a fresh perspective, but the folks that I think that need that fresh perspective might not necessarily know that they need the sustainable Sunday-centered solutions. So I had to think of something actually for that mission statement, something that was very much on the tip of people's tongues, which is a buzzword right now in ministry, and missionary disciples is a big one. Mm-hmm. And I know that we have an event coming up in the diocese next year, I understand, and I think they're using something along the lines of missionary discipleship. That's right. A big word, and I know that that missionary discipleship is a big word, and to think about going forth and empowerment, but then in that word empowering, not only do we want to empower others in the act of empowering, but we want to empower others to be empowering missionary disciples, so that this is something that's sustainable, that keeps going.
Now, as a communications guy, I was very impressed to see that, because you are the first sort of independent Catholic person or organization or company that I've really seen embrace the missionary discipleship. Now, we've seen the USCCB and the Vatican and the diocese. Certainly, Bishop Sullivan has talked about it at length. But it's great I'm looking at this as a penetration moment to see that missionary discipleship being used as the mission statement of somebody else out there on their own deciding that this was something that needed to be done. And I haven't seen that anywhere in any other kind of an entity. How about you, Pete? Have you seen anybody else?
No.
It's great. I'm glad to see the messaging is getting out there. It's very impactful, and you made my day.
Thank you.
We've been really pushing it. So it's great to see somebody using it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Just, a sense of empowerment. I see that. And I was just listening to something on YouTube this morning from another YouTuber saying something about, the rituals and the way that we celebrate in prayer. Does it make sense? And so for me, when I say that word, I say, empowering missionary disciples through sustainable Sunday-centered solutions. My mission is to help folks make sense of what we celebrate on Sunday, and looking towards Sunday as the center, because it really is. And at some point I'll get into how I came up with the name for the blog as well, and what that has to do with Sunday. But really looking towards that, and really looking towards that as a place of empowerment. But, do we have the tools to go and really, does our worship make sense, and do we have the tools to make sense of it and to help others understand, why we do what we do when we come together and pray as Catholics as well? So that's another piece of it. So.
That's fantastic. So let's talk about your background a little bit.
Sure.
You said you've been doing this for most of your adult life.
Pastoral ministry.
Pastoral ministry. How'd you get started, and where'd you get started?
Oh, I have a YouTube video about that, about my first church job. Yeah. But I actually, so it goes even before my first church job. I started out when I was in 7th grade. It was confirmation service that we could join the choir in my elementary school and sing in the choir. And we could do that as confirmation service. For our confirmation, we could sing at confirmation for the 8th grade. So I did that. I started in choir, and I did that as kind of an extracurricular. And then I really got into organ music later, like about a year and change later. We got a new music director, and he was a really good organist. And the first time I heard him play, I was like, wow, I want to do that. Initially, I wanted to be an architect, and then I got into music, and so that dream kind of went to the side. But music is also a lot of math, and organ is a lot of math. So I got into the organ music, and then after high school, I started college. I was initially a voice major, and then I switched over to organ towards my second year of college. I worked in a parish throughout college and then after my undergrad, and I've worked as a parish music director up until 2015 in diverse parishes in New York City. And it was about that time I was feeling a little bit stuck, and it was my dad who said to me, Elena, you need to find an opportunity to use all of your gifts, not just, what you do as a musician. And my dad was so right about this, because I was a musician, but I was feeling stuck. I felt like I had hit a plateau. I had gotten my master's through St. Joseph's Seminary in Dunwoody. At that time they had a very, very affordable master's program that was available through the Archdiocese of New York. And even though I wasn't in a parish of the Archdiocese of New York, I was still able to take advantage of this program. It was in Yonkers, which wasn't too far from Queens, where I was living at the time. Anyway, so I finished my master's. My dad was saying, go find something where you're going to use all of your gifts. So I was looking, there's a variety of websites for finding postings, employment postings. I found this job in Swedesboro, New Jersey, and it described it as a parish in like a rural area. And I'm like, I'm a New Yorker. I don't want to deal with horses. So it was posted, and I said, you know what the heck? I'll apply for it. So I did. I came down. I was offered the position. I was there for a little over 3 years. It was the best. I have to say, it was like the best 3 years of my life because it really did expand me and it helped me to grow. I learned from so many wonderful people. I can't say enough about Father Dave and how wonderful and what a great priest he is, and how much of a perspective like he's given me on ministry and collaboration and teamwork, and my coworkers at St. Clair, how much I learned from them and the people. But I also saw that I had rapidly kind of outgrown. The position was becoming not so challenging anymore. And I also saw areas where that I would have liked to pursue that I couldn't necessarily pursue while working full time. Seeing that there's a need for, and I have had a blog for the last 5 years, become more active with my blog the last 2 or so. And so I wanted to take that to the next level. And I'm starting to see, okay, the end of the fiscal year would be a good time to kind of wrap things up and move on. And so that's when I decided, earlier in the year is when I decided that I wanted to take FontSound, which was my blog, and make that into a business by doing some side projects and really working to develop content on the website, on YouTube, on social media, and it's been really fun. I've gotten a lot of support and encouragement, and I'm so grateful. Thanks to God, thanks be to God. So much, so much gratitude for the support that I've received, and so here I am.
That's outstanding.
Thank
You've
you.
answered half my questions. Like,
Sorry.
how's a girl from New York head down there to South Jersey?
Yes.
But I'm very familiar with that parish, as my number of my in-laws are in that parish, the Mee family, if you remember any of them.
Yes.
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 Yes. Oh, sure. And but no, you're absolutely right. That's a great community. A lot of diversity there, and the school's right there, so you can pull a lot of that into it. But it sounds like you have this diverse talent, right? This diverse background. So as part of FontSound, as the founder of FontSound, how are you sort of picturing parishes engaging with you and what you're going to be able to provide for them, like from a technical perspective, from a logistical perspective?
Right. Well, I was just saying before I came on the show just how much of a it's like the rabbit hole in Alice in Wonderland where we get kind of pulled in and then all sorts of things happen. Social media is a great tool for marketing and for connecting and seeing who's listening and seeing who's engaging. However, it can also be very time consuming to manage that. And I saw that at St. Clair, where I had some access to the social media and to make some posts on our Facebook and our Twitter, and then eventually we started an Instagram. But seeing how time consuming it was with everything else in parish life to manage that, and so I could see parishes engaging me just to help them get their social media started, or to come in and maybe just do some interim work. Sometimes finding the right interim person, I do have an eclectic skill set, just finding the right interim person is sometimes a challenge, but also having a perspective of being able to say, hey, I've been there, I've made the same mistakes that maybe somebody else has made, and it's okay to make those mistakes, and to say here's how you move forward from that as well. But my hope is, I know for myself, like I tend to get stale and stuck and figure out all the shortcuts after a year and a half, 2 years of being in one place. And so I see that as a gift, and I see that as, I can be the person, or I can recommend a colleague who might be free to come in and maybe give some guidance for a short period of time so that others can take that on. So the early church, and the things that fascinate to me is the structure of the early church. The early church didn't have a bunch of paid employees. It didn't have a church bulletin. It didn't have all this stuff. So how do we empower volunteers to take over the things in a place where financial resources are limited, we may not have the financial resources to pay a huge staff. How do we empower volunteers, or how do we empower somebody who's in an administrative role to take on some of these responsibilities? And then when is it time to go in and contract things out to a vendor like FontSound to do some of the little things, maybe redesigning or reconfiguring a website or starting a social media account or stuff like that. So.
It's interesting. I've been in this PR and communications business for 20 years now, and I've worked for a number of different groups, and I've been associated with a number of different groups, and I've been a part of a number of different associations where people like me get together. And a lot of the times, all a small independent entity like a parish will need is just to someone come in and set up the framework.
Yep.
Because the problem is, it's the learning how to get all that stuff done that's the tricky part. So even when I came to the diocese, I came with a lot of understanding about how social media worked, but we didn't have much of a social media footprint. But I was able to come in right away and just go, okay, I'm going to make all these things happen. And then since then, it's been about growth and whatnot. Talking Catholic has had an Instagram account since we started the podcast. It was one of our number one entities, communications vehicles for the podcast. But the diocese, for whatever reason, and I have no good excuse for this, I dragged my feet on putting together an Instagram account until quite literally last week. And I was just like, I don't know why I'm dragging my feet on this. And I just did and I use it personally. It's my favorite of the social media accounts. I find that it has the least amount of divisiveness with the most amount of pictures, which is what I'm a photographer, so I love seeing other people's artwork, and that's really what I consider. I consider it social media artwork. So I'm like, why are we not doing this? I have at my disposal as the communications director, I have all of these very artistic people all around the diocese, not just in the diocese, but all the parishes and whatnot. Why am I not utilizing all of this to create like a really cool Instagram account that shows, the life of the church, not, stale pictures of the outside, not simple graphics and whatnot. Not that we won't use those things as well, but to show like the heart of the church, the joy, the activity. We have a photographer on staff who primarily works for Catholic Charities, and every time I assign her something out of the communications department instead of the Catholic Charities department, all I tell her is this. I said, capture the joy. Go out there. I don't care what you photograph. Don't worry about capturing news. I'll handle that. Just capture the joy, the heart. And she does it every single time.
That's awesome.
And we use it in the Catholic Star Herald, and we've used it on Facebook, and she uses it on her accounts. But I want to be able to do more with that because the art is so good. Yeah, I gotta fill every channel with it. And our other social media mavens that we have within the diocese are good at that as well, as are you, as a matter of fact. Brushing up on this interview, I went and did a deep dive on all of your social media, and your personal branding is exemplary.
Thank you.
Very, very good. I highly recommend any of our listeners to check it out.
You talk about joy.
Yes. Once again, and honestly, you're doing it in such a fantastic way for our listeners who haven't. Some of our listeners and some of our former guests have certainly been experts in personal branding, and I would definitely put you into that category as well. But for those of you who haven't really done that, and you're sort of, it's a great thing as a primary job to do. It's a great thing as a side job to do. It's just a great thing if being an influencer is something that you want to do. I highly recommend stealing ideas from everybody, which is I'm very open about this. I was at a Catholic media conference, so Pete and I were in Green Bay, and I admitted to it, I was like, I don't borrow. I'm going to steal your ideas, and because they're so great. And by all means, I want you people to steal mine. I've heard from the Archdiocese of Philadelphia and in the Diocese of Metuchen that they rip off our stuff all the time. I'm like, great, take the ideas. We're all on the same boat here.
Metuchen?
Oh, sure.
I've got friends up in Metuchen.
Me too. But their communications director, who we had on the podcast a few weeks ago, she's phenomenal. And it's. I mean, I call it theft, but what it really is stealing best practices and good ideas and sort of redeveloping them as your own. And you seem to have done a great job. I was actually trying to hop on before we got on the podcast because I didn't see your last YouTube video, but it was the one about your first job.
I have that, and I just did one on fundraising.
Oh, I don't think I saw that one.
Yeah.
But you've done a great job of always finding sort of a different backdrop, which before we got on the podcast, we were talking about that as well, that you always make your social media posts like visually interesting. in addition to incredibly enthusiastic.
Oh, yeah.
So as a founder of a company, but also as someone who's developing their personal brand, you really seem to be doing a great job.
Thank you.
I'm curious, what were your influences of sort of developing your own techniques?
I have to say I don't own a TV, so I do watch I watch a lot of YouTube. I do watch a lot of YouTube, and so we're like looking at logos. I had to look at like designing a logo, for example. I wanted to see like, well, what are the trends in logos right now, and so looking at listening to other YouTube, watching other YouTube channels, looking at other YouTube channels, and both Catholic brands and just non-Catholic like entrepreneur brands, looking at that to come up with a logo, and looking for colors that would be consistent and bright. And my logo has some like red in it. I wanted that because of liturgy, and liturgical books are almost always red, and there's red in rubrics and liturgical rubrics. And then I wanted some blue in there because blue is always a color about trust, and I want some trust and confidence in my branding. As an independent person, I don't have the publishers backing me. Whereas a lot of the way that we pray as Catholics, I think, in the United States is we don't realize it is really strongly influenced by publishers. And so I don't have that. So I have to create some trust and consistency on my own as an independent voice. And that's a little scary. But yeah, so I wanted some blue in there. I wanted something that looked subtly Catholic. Catholic Christian. I wanted some sort of cross logo. So I have that in there as well. But the name was actually the name of my blog from many, many years ago. So
and FontSound, where did that come from?
Yes, I'm glad you asked. That's awesome. There's a lot in this. I wanted something that reflected. First, I started a blog about 5 years ago, and I wanted a domain that was going to be brief, that didn't have too many syllables, and that was pretty distinguishable. Like that was something that was going to roll off the tongue easily. And FontSound pretty much did the trick. But it was also sound because I was a musician, and font because I liked creative and clear typeface. However, there's also a double meaning in that. As a liturgist, as somebody who has a master's degree in religious studies with a concentration in liturgy from St. Joseph Seminary's Institute of Religious Studies program, liturgy in the Constitution on Sacred Liturgy, we say that our Sunday celebration is the font it's the source. It's the summit towards which all of our activities directed as church, was the font from which all of our energy, our power flows. And so as somebody who is a musician and somebody who's a liturgist, I wanted that to be reflected in the title of my blog as well, that we're talking about the sound of the font, the music of our Sunday celebration. But it got to be more than just music. It got to be, commentary on liturgy, on pastoral emerging issues in pastoral ministry, but really the sound of the font. But then also, sound is that body of water that lies between maybe like an island or peninsula and the mainland. And our Sunday celebration is a sound in the sense that it is the expression of the people's desire for God's presence in their life. It's kind of that going in between, but it also is that channel. And so there's a lot in that name. I could probably sit here and talk for another hour on that, but I won't. But yeah, that's where
I'm curious, as I'm sitting here listening to you talk. You and I have never met before. These are my favorite kind of interviews because I can ask honest questions because I don't know who you are. So your undergrad was in what?
Music,
and then your master's was in music with. I'm sorry.
No, my master's was in religious studies with a concentration in liturgy. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, when you finish your bachelor's, going that far back, when you finish your bachelor's, in your mind, leaving college, what did you think you'd be doing with your life?
I thought I'd be a church organist for the rest of my life.
Okay.
My undergrad was music. So.
And now that church organist has just given me an excellent dissertation on marketing and communications to someone on the other side who has a master's degree in marketing and communications.
Oh, no.
And it's pitch perfect what you've learned. Like every best practice you've brought, which is, from what I can tell, self-taught. Like just being observant.
Yes.
Stories like that give me hope for the entire rest of the world in every capacity, that if we have the desire to do it, we can learn outside of college and high school and places like that. All you have to do is be invested and have the motor, the drive to do what you want to do. So I'm curious, where does that drive come from you?
I don't know. I'm intrinsically curious about everything.
Yeah.
I'm that kid that, in fourth grade, my mother was a school teacher for a while, and she used to say that it was a fourth grade thing to be sitting there in class, taking the pen apart and then putting it back together about 15 times. And I remember being in fourth grade and doing that. But, most kids outgrow that. I didn't. So, just having to find out how everything works and, just having to learn. And I never stop learning. I'm intrinsically curious about everything. And what you're saying about being self-taught, that's the other piece of the puzzle, is that as a Catholic Christian, the things that I learned by doing a master's degree aren't things that I should have had to get that master's degree to know.
Yeah.
And I see so many folks, who are working in parishes or volunteering, and it's like, we need to make this formation more accessible for folks too. And so my hope is through some of the YouTube content that I put out there, that's free stuff, that I put a different layer, a little bit more depth and a little bit more of promote some more understanding, so that folks don't have to, go and pursue this, take tons of time to go and study this. So there's little tidbits that everybody can pick up and learn.
And I think that's interesting with your, you want to be an architect, and yet even though you're not kind of doing that in the traditional sense of the word, you are building something. And I correct me if I'm wrong, you're bilingual? You do know Spanish.
Hablo español, entiendo español, pero no tengo un poco de dificultades cuando yo hablo en conversación. I have a little bit of difficulty, like conversation, but I also have a little difficulty with English conversation too. So, I'm of Hispanic heritage. My grandmother's half Guatemalan.
Okay.
So my great grandfather played the marimba in nightclubs. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
And but you've talked about that Spanish. You've actually, on your videos, you've spoken in Spanish, correct?
I did a little something on YouTube. Not YouTube, on Facebook. I had a Facebook Live where I was asking some questions.
Yeah.
For me, that's going to take a little bit more work because it's a little bit more difficult to speak extemporaneously in Spanish. So that, for me, I know that I'm going to have to prepare a little bit more to get something coming out that's forthcoming. But I see the need for it. Back in New York, I was in one parish for a little while where I was doing 2 Spanish masses a week. And in every other parish except for one that was in Staten Island. But every other place I was doing at least 1 mass in Spanish and 1 choir rehearsal in Spanish a week. And I do see that there's a need for formation as well in the Hispanic community. And not everybody has the time to make a commitment week to week to go formation. And although that is just commendable for those that do, for those that can't, for those who are sitting on the bus, going to work, and put their headphones in their smartphone to listen to something or to watch something on YouTube, I think there's a need for that.
Yeah.
And that sort of formation. Spanish, yeah.
It's funny you were bringing up YouTube and YouTube. There was a time there when I was under the impression, erroneously, that YouTube had kind of become passé. But what I'd failed to realize was that there was an entire culture developing that was making YouTube its primary information source. And only because my son has entered into this culture, and now he almost never watches television anymore, unless I make him sit down and watch something with me. Like we watched a movie last night, and he does enjoy watching American Ninja Warrior, so we sat down and watched that together, and we'll watch baseball games together or football games together. But other than that, he doesn't really watch anything. Everything is YouTube. And he's using it similarly. Now, keep in mind, this is a 10-year-old, so his main focus is learning all the tricks to Fortnite. But he'll be sitting there playing Fortnite, the video game Fortnite, and the iPad will be next to him, and he'll be watching how the best practices, essentially. And I'm beginning to realize that we have been underutilizing our YouTube channel for that audience, that I've been instead using it as an archive instead of using it as a teaching tool. So it may take me a little while to get this one up and running, considering how long it took me to get the Instagram up and running. But that's exactly something I want to do is, whether it's a news service through the Catholic Star Herald or some sort of a promotional opportunity through the communications department of the diocese, I think I want to start using our YouTube channel more aggressively and in that kind of capacity, giving people What would you say is the average length of one of your videos?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, right?
5 minutes,
Okay.
6 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, and the longest one I see from my son is like 10 minutes. Now there are certainly longer ones, but that attention span doesn't usually last that long.
Yeah.
But I think some 5 and 10 minute videos might be the way to go. And as I've been doing a deep dive into how people are utilizing them, and I'm the same way. I go to my Catholic sources, but more often than not, I go to my non-industry. Air quote sources because the things that are appealing to gamers are I'm gunning for that same audience. I'm just going in for the Catholics in that audience, or the people who aren't necessarily Catholic, but they're looking for something that's Catholic. So I will be stealing as many ideas as I can off of you. Though I'm not sure anyone will want to see me sort of with a blanket behind me. One of your videos is like that, right? It's like,
I've got like a sheet, and I'm like talking about my first church job, like, or the one where I'm out there. There might be something where I'm talking to my plants or something in my garden. But then I also I went out and bought like it actually came out really cool. I bought backdrop and put that up for my last one on fundraising. But yeah, I look at there's like one entrepreneur channel on YouTube, Sunny Lenarduzzi. She just does stuff for entrepreneurs, and I've been looking at her stuff. And this is free information that's out there. And this is like it's not not specifically a Catholic Christian channel by any means. It's just for entrepreneurs. It's free stuff out there, and that like learning how to put a watermark on my channel, learning apps that I can use, editing from my phone. I bought a camera that I'm returning because I can do a decent job of editing, decent from my phone. And so why invest that money when I can do something from a smartphone that I'm still paying for, but smartphone that I'm paying for. But yeah, there's so much good stuff out there with YouTube, and I know like. For myself, I have the attention span of about a large goldfish, like a koi, like maybe not a Mr. Rogers fish tank goldfish, but maybe like the garden goldfish. The brain is a little larger, so it maybe takes a little bit longer to catch that breadcrumb. So I have a slightly longer attention span than a goldfish, and so for me, learning to do stuff, in my spare time I knit. Like knitting was my big thing. I used to be really into cosmetics, and like thank goodness I'm not like into that. That was crazy. That was a ridiculous amount of spending. But those two hobbies back when I was in my 20s, when YouTube first got started with like watching makeup tutorials, I learned everything that I need to know about like cosmetics from watching YouTube. With knitting, there's a lot of stitches and patterns that I learned from watching YouTube, and I think that it is such a handy tool, and underutilized by the church too, I think.
It really is, and I couldn't tell you why, because there was a time when we were very focused on it, and it sort of fell out. And I think what happened was we thought it was going to replace television, and that's not what it was. That was never the through line. All these channels are going to exist as they are. The Facebook Lives, we've actually done more Facebook Live stuff than we've done YouTube stuff, and every time I've gotten great hits on it, but each one has to be sort of utilized a little different. Like the stuff we've done with Facebook Live, I wouldn't necessarily do that with YouTube. I need to come up with something else, a pre-packaged small tutorial like you're talking about, would be the way to go. And making sure, and this is the key, it can't be me being the one that's preaching, right? It's got to be someone who's got that, much like yourself, has that enthusiasm and that authenticity coming out. I know, even though I'm the communications director, will never be the face of the church, because A, I'm not, and B, I'm just sitting back here giving ideas to people who are delivering that message that people need to hear. Right. If you're being converted because of me, something has gone terribly wrong with the church. I'm just here to tee people up and let them hit the homers. That's right. So
you're like the home run derby coach.
The pitching guy, yeah, that's me.
Guy, yeah.
That's I'm just there grooving softballs. That's all I'm doing. But yeah, no, this kind of stuff is great. Now, in your circle of friends, circle of family, are you finding that there are people like yourself? Like, is this generation? Is this, or maybe not generation? Because I don't think it's generational. I honestly don't. Because people from like my son's age, 10 to in their 50s, are utilizing this. So let's call it a cultural thing. Are you finding that there are more people utilizing that, or are people trying and failing because they haven't figured out the best way of doing it?
I find that there's interest, and I find there's interest in it that in my circle. And I was just thinking about this the other day. The majority of the folks, the majority of the folks that the friendships that have lasted are friends that I have made by being involved in ministry, and so the church, has a ways to go with getting up to speed with using new technologies. I find that there's a lot of support and interest, but I don't see a lot of other folks that I'm friendly with getting really into the podcasting and the YouTubing and the Facebook Live. I don't see that many, but I see that there's a lot of interest, and I've been doing an experiment with Facebook Live on Tuesday nights, talking about music and ministry and like tips and tricks that I've learned over the years and sharing with colleagues. And like the first time I did it, there was a lot of response, and then it's kind of it's tapered off a little bit, but the interest, I'm surprised by the folks who are interested in it. And they're not, I would have thought, oh, this will be the folks that are like my age, that are in their 30s. It's not. It's actually like a mix of younger folks and folks that were doing this, that were my age when I started out, and then there's some folks that are my age as well. So it's a nice mix of interest, and I'm really surprised, pleasantly surprised by the folks that are very supportive of it.
Yeah,
so.
I've decided that I'm going to get rid of the philosophy that anybody who's doing anything on social media is between the ages of 13 and 35. It's not true.
No.
There are many people in their 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s who are active on our social media platforms. Now, I still think, now granted, we're using Twitter and Facebook primarily. We're just now using Instagram and YouTube. So my opinions on this may change down the road. I do think Instagram still goes a little younger than the other two, less established. I know all my nieces and nephews who are between the ages of 13 and 20 are all primarily using Instagram. So that's one of the ideas I had, was to more effectively reach out to that community by using Instagram. But no, you should not consider that a limited audience, though. I am 46 years old, and I am dedicated to Instagram. I have all the other things, too, and I check them all out evenly. But the one that if I'm just sitting somewhere, the one I want to open up first is my Instagram account. Yeah.
And what's amazing, too, about Instagram is you're saying it's all multi-generational. It seems like my family, at least, all my sisters and I are on it, and our cousins are on it. But then my aunts and uncles are on it primarily to keep up with us. Like they want to, they like, and that doesn't happen with Facebook. It happens with Instagram. So I'm friends with my aunts, uncles, cousins. It's pretty amazing.
It really is. And I call it the kinder, gentler Facebook, because, you don't get me wrong. I know on social media you can get trolls, but the least number of trolls I've found is on Instagram so far.
I'm hoping that never loses its luster.
Well, I just think they haven't I think the way Instagram is set up is it's not easy to troll people on Instagram. You got to make an effort to do it. And if there's one thing trolls don't do, it's make an effort as a general rule. Twitter is so easy that it's easy to troll people. Facebook, you can do a little bit more trolling, but there you can block and hide and whatnot. But Instagram is still sort of like, there's a bit of a purity to it.
Right.
It's by its very nature, it seems quite kind. Now, there was a time when we thought Twitter was going to be like that too, and that ended up not being the case. But so I hope, much like you, Pete, I hope it never changes. Now, Pete, do you have an open account or a closed account on Instagram?
I have a closed account.
You just keeping everyone. Our listeners truly desire to know more about the PD Mac. I tag you on all of our Instagram stuff.
We do. Well,
and then they go to find out who PD Mac is, and then nothing.
Well,
brick wall.
Well, the thing is,
and I've seen your Twitter account or your Instagram account. It is a beautiful. If you've never seen it, it's all about his family, these beautiful places he hikes to, which is amazing enough because I didn't realize he hiked. But it's gorgeous, and it's so inspirational, and yet he leaves it closed off to the world.
I guess. Well, that's a conversation for
not with me. It's up to you. I'm not going to make you. But I'm just saying. I think we're sort of. I'm not necessarily suggesting you need to create a personal brand, even though you are a public figure as a writer for the Catholic Star Herald. But I don't know. I'm kind of surprised because that's the one. When I thought about, my Facebook is closed because it's a lot of family and friends, and mostly who knows what they'll put up about me. So it's like the world doesn't need to see that. But my Instagram account is wide open because I want anybody to feel comfortable seeing that. Because it's, I don't know, it's just, I put up nothing but positive
Yeah, I
stuff.
thought about that. I don't know. I guess it's just my
Reticence.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that
Embrace the world, Pete. Be like
and
Elena.
let the world embrace me.
That's right. Open arms. See, look at it. She's got open arms. See, be like that. Consider, because your Instagram account is lovely. So
And
you should consider.
FontSound can help you with the branding. We can make a PD Mac logo.
Now boy,
And
you've
what
opened
is
up a can of worms.
So your Instagram is FontSound?
FontSound. All of my social media across all. So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat at FontSound. So it's just the at sign at FontSound, FontSound. My YouTube channel you can access through. There's lots of links to it. YouTube is interesting until I have 100 subscribers, which I don't have yet. So if you subscribe, you'll help out the FontSound channel. Then I can have a vanity URL for my YouTube. So once I get those 100 subscribers, I've got a lot of views. I don't have that many subscribers. Once people click that subscribe button, and I have 100 of those, then I'm eligible for vanity URLs through YouTube, which makes it even easier to promote the channel.
Listeners, if you're wondering, every time we ask you to do something, it's because we get a benefit from the social media platform that we're utilizing. For instance, we still need you guys to rate us on Apple Podcasts just so that we can start showing up in search entities. And because of the way Apple Podcasts works, I don't know how many more that we need. So we might need one more, or we might need 73 more. Or, well, not 73, but we might need 43 more. So if you can, dear listeners, please go and like us and give us 5 stars and review us for Apple Podcasts. But at the same time, check out all of our accounts. We do the same thing. We're at Talking Catholic at every place. If you want, just check out my Instagram account. It's at Michael Walsh PR or Mike Walsh PR. One of those. It's big face of me. You'll figure it out. Trust me. You'll see a picture of me. And my last post was a picture of me at Valley Forge looking very patriotic. So that's me and my family. So that's
a great place.
It is. I'd never been there before, even though we're less than an hour away, and it was a great event. It was a great 4th of July opportunity. I highly recommend it next year to anybody who wants to celebrate the 4th of July in a very family, peaceful, but absolutely lovely and energetic and fun atmosphere. Instead of going to, not that I have any problems about being in Center City, Philly, but if you want to stay away from the crowds, but still get that colonial experience, go over to Valley Forge because it was great. But yeah, and they had burgers and dogs, so that was good too.
I will never say no to that.
No, it's all good things. But going back to what I was saying before about the social media platforms, when we ask you to subscribe to something, we really need you to, because it opens up all these other opportunities that allow us to create a greater audience. So if you didn't already know that, so listeners, give us a hand.
And Elena, what do you have a motto, or do you have anything that, like, a life quote? I'm butchering this, but like any life advice that you can share with our listeners?
Life advice. That's a good one. Interesting. Okay, let me think about this. Follow your heart. Follow your heart and be true to yourself. Just be true to yourself. Be real and be true to yourself. I have to say that when I lived in New York, and I'm actually I'm supposed to go back to New York. I'm going to be covering music in a parish for 4 weeks during the summer. I'm not necessarily like super excited about it, because when I lived in New York, it was a time in my life where I tried to be somebody that maybe I wasn't 100%. And so, and any insight that thank you for asking that. Just be true to yourself. And it's amazing how, for myself, my own journey of coming to this point with, starting my own brand, I had to be fiercely true to myself and to say, I love the perks of being employed by somebody else, being employed in ministry. I love the perks of this. Like the other day, it was hot out, and I don't use air conditioning because I'm kind of a cheapskate. But when I was employed, like, I could go over to my office and sit there and enjoy the air conditioning. And, now that I'm just kind of like working out of my home for the most part, I don't have those perks anymore. And so, there's going to be sacrifice along the way, but when we're really true to our hearts and true to our hearts, then and true to that voice of God who speaks within our hearts, that's when we're going to be the happiest and the most free. And I have to challenge myself to take my own advice at times, but thank you for asking that. That's my insights to be true. And to find what brings joy, I think that the joy that we find in our hearts, that's God's way of saying you're on the right path when we're able to be joyful. And I find that, when something stops bringing me joy, then it's time to move on. And I have to say that what I'm doing right now it's challenging. I may at some point have to go back to working full time because this may not be enough to support myself. But but I'm optimistic. I know that I need the time to devote to get this launched so that someday it will be. And so, but to say this is really joyful, going and putting up putting a blog post or doing a YouTube video or making a little graphic design and posting that on the site, that type of stuff brings me lots of joy and it's fun. And so
it's interesting to hear you say that because it took me a long time until I found a job where I was truly joyful. And it's been this one. It's 2.5 years, or almost 3 years now, and I haven't had a bad. I've had anxiety-ridden days and difficult days, but I haven't had a bad day, and it hasn't been a day where I didn't want to come into work. It's been really a great experience. And before I came here, those experiences were relegated to, I'd always have a side job. I'd always have something on the side that would keep me motivated and interested and keep my joy up. And, it is nice to be someplace where I can just focus on that joy 24/7,
And I do have to say about this diocese, the joy shines through in everybody that I've met. That's been, I've gotten so much when I started at St. Clair, and then even as I, discerning this opportunity to move on, the amount of support that I've received from this diocese, but the joy and encouragement from the folks that I've met along the way, that really shines through, and that's just a really beautiful thing. And to see that means that there's something good going on, and that's so affirming.
Well, I'll tell you, that's been bi-directional because obviously I didn't know who you were, but I asked around. It's like, have you this woman, Elena? And they're like, oh, she's the best. Oh, she's so great. Oh my, that's one. Did you hear about the thing she's starting up? I'm like, FontSound? Yes.
Oh, geez,
you gotta check
really?
that out. Yeah. So
my gosh.
You have people within the diocese really pulling for you and very excited for you. So that's you got that going for you.
I know you've done a lot of. We've ran into each other at a bunch of events.
Yes.
I saw you at Great Adventure.
Yes.
For the youth event.
Yeah.
So you did the music for that. Right?
I was not. I was just a backup singer. I was in the backup. I was backup vocals. My colleague put that ensemble together, and they needed like a backup singer and keyboard for one song. But I do get I get around to different events and stuff.
And you were at the ordination too.
I was at ordination singing in the choir. As a member of the Diocesan Worship Commission, a bunch of us were invited to be part of the event, as well as members of the diocesan choir. So I was in that, and I get around.
Well, that's the key in this business. That is the absolute key. Is to sort of volunteer for everything and do everything.
Exactly.
And it turns into something else eventually.
But
it's just keep putting yourself out there, and then good things will happen. Absolutely. And do it in a good way, and do it in a way where you honestly want to see positivity happen. Where and not just your, I'm trying to make money, or as we're all looking at Pete, don't worry about the money. The money will come, is what I tell people.
Right.
It's like it eventually shows up, and if you need it, there's always some place to get it. If you're truly capable, there's always some place to get it.
Right. No, I was having that conversation. We were having that conversation, I think, before I was saying, like, I like doing this, and I know that there's people that make their living as YouTubers, and that's wonderful. But I have to be certain this is something that I want to do, and then if I want to, this is not just because I want to make a living as a YouTuber or something, but because I fully enjoy this, and then that joy will eventually shine through.
Kind of like you're part of your mission.
Yes.
Like a vocation.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're actually you're now the fourth person I've met in the last 2 months who have 4 months who have sort of gone this route now and sort of decided to sort of cast off the normal full-time job and sort of create something on their own. And I'm watching all of you with bated breath because I'm like, I'm obviously wishing for nothing but success, but I'm also trying to figure out, okay, how are they going to do this? And so I'm watching you all like hawks and like, how are they going to do this and what's working for them? And then figuring out, because people come up and ask me this stuff all the time. And I'm like, well, I haven't done this personally. Like, I commonly refer to myself as the world's worst businessman. I was I was a photographer on my own, freelancer on my own for years, and pretty much I just relied on my relationships with Gannett to feed me, opportunities to take pictures. But I tried wedding photography. I was like, that isn't my thing. And then I tried, hanging my shingle out and doing portraits and stuff like that. I was like, it's not really my thing. I'm just going to stick with sports journalism. So I never made a dime. I probably lost money on being a sports photographer, but it did bring me incredible amounts of joy. But I do wish, looking back on those days, maybe if I had a little more energy and a little more drive like yourself and these other folks, I actually come to think of, they're all women they're doing this. Maybe if I had that kind of drive, I'd have been a little bit more successful. Might not have ended up here, but I would have a sort of a different life. I do love photography.
I mean, it's pretty amazing. And I've never seen this before, Mike. On the back of Elena's car, she actually put her... How did you got your name on there?
It's
Can
just
you explain that?
It's just a font that I and a cheap platform. I'm all about. I joked about being the cheapskate, not having the AC, not having the television. I really am about finding affordable platforms for anything and for like graphics. There's a great website out there called Canva, Canva, and it's like, I think some of these other expensive, like Adobe and stuff, they're great for folks who are, in school that have studied this stuff at length. But there's simpler stuff out there that with a good eye for detail creates a more polished look. And that's just the signature on my card. That's just a simple that's a Canva font. I don't know.
No, I meant on your car.
Oh, on my
car.
Oh, my
it has
car.
Your name. It says Elena on the back of your car. Yeah, Mike, how did you do that? It looks so professional.
Oh, geez. Thank you. I used an app. No, I went to the store and I got my car. Yes. I drive manual. I had a colleague teach me how to drive stick. I am so proud of learning how to do that and so grateful to her for teaching me how to do it. My car, I put my name. I just bought the letters from the store and then I spray painted them and lined them up. And then I used, they're self-adhesive, but I wanted to make sure they stayed on. So I used JB Weld, which is my new auto repair best friend. JB Weld is like a sticky stuff that fixes everything. And I put my name on the back of the car. So, but that was not a font that I downloaded.
No, it's just another thing. Now you got to get FontSound on there.
Maybe vanity plates, I'm thinking.
There you go. Now you're talking about.
Easy.
Yeah, or spray paint the logo.
And then, Pete, you need to put Petey Mac on the back of your car so that people know who's rolling up to do a story for the Star Herald. I like it.
Create a logo for you.
That's right.
That would be, Does a company car?
Be careful. He may reach out to you about getting a logo done. I can already see the wheels turning in his head about that.
We'll give you the insider price.
Oh, look at that. We'll take care of you.
We'll give you the discount.
Enticing.
Well, this has been a fantastic hour.
This has been great. Thank you so
very
much.
Yes. And we'll have this up tonight, and we're very much looking forward to it. But thank you very much for joining. You're welcome in the vault anytime.
Thank you.
Do you have any last words of encouragement?
Yes. If you could check out FontSound.org, FontSound.org. Check through, go through the menu and look out the blog, and got some memes out there and. Some YouTube stuff. Check us out. Check us out on social media at FontSound, FontSound. And just a word of gratitude to all my colleagues up here at the Diocese of Camden. Thank you so much for having me on today's show, and thank you to this diocese for all the wonderful support, and to my colleagues at St. Clair. I wouldn't be in this room today talking about what I'm doing without all of that encouragement. So I'm grateful.
That's wonderful. And of course, we'll have all your details up on our social media as well, so you can find everything there too. So, Pete,
thank you.
Good podcast.
This was wonderful, Elena. You are welcome back anytime.
And thank you. And Pete, thank you for bringing another good guest. As our chief booker, I never know who's going to show up, but he hasn't brought a bad guest yet, so I'm very happy about that.
Well, thank you, Mike, for everything, and just your... It's funny, I kind of do, I'm the front end, we both do the center, and you're the back end with the production, so...
That is not the first time I've been referred to as a back end, Pete. But once again, I thank you for ending the podcast on a good note. Nice job. Well done, sir. Seriously, people, you have to listen to the last 30 seconds of every single one of our podcasts. That's when Pete really comes out with something gold. Gold, Pete. Gold.
Bling, bling.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening.
Talking Catholic.
Bye.
God bless.